The first time I saw the patrol lights behind me, I felt relieved. It was a little after 1 in the morning, and I was still 20 minutes from home on a 2-lane road outside town, the kind surrounded by empty fields, half-built houses, and long stretches with no gas stations, no cameras, and no people. I had stayed late helping a friend move. My phone was nearly dead, and I was tired enough that when the red and blue lights flashed in my mirror, I assumed I had drifted over the line or had a bad taillight. I pulled over without thinking twice. The SUV that stopped behind me looked almost right. Black body, light bar, spotlight. It had the shape of a police vehicle, and in the dark, shape is usually enough to make you obey. But the moment the driver got out, something felt wrong. Real officers usually approach your car like they already know exactly what they're doing. This man moved slower, like he was copying something he had seen before. He knocked on my window with a flashlight and told me to lower it. His uniform was dark, but not standard. The badge on his chest sat crooked. His duty belt looked pieced together. I didn't register any of that clearly in the moment. It was more like my brain was collecting tiny wrong details faster than I could explain them. "License and registration," he said. His voice was calm but empty. I handed over my license and asked what I had done. He barely glanced at it before looking into the back seat at the boxes and blanket I still had from helping my friend move. Then he said, "Step out of the vehicle." No explanation, no question, no reason. I asked why. "Because I'm telling you to." That was when the fear became real. One side of my mind said something was wrong. The other said that if he was a real officer, disobeying him could make everything worse. I looked toward the SUV, trying to spot a unit number or department name, and realized I couldn't see one. I said I wanted to call 911 to verify the stop. The change in him was instant. "There's no need for that," he said, stepping closer. "Out, now." Then he reached for the door handle. I locked the doors. For 1 second, he just stared at me through the glass. Then he backed up, flashed the light directly into my eyes, and shouted something I couldn't make out. I threw the car into drive and pulled back onto the road so hard my tires slipped on the gravel. I expected sirens. Instead, the SUV accelerated so fast it closed the gap almost immediately. The light bar kept flashing, but there was still no siren. Just those red and blue lights filling my mirrors and that black shape riding my bumper in silence. My phone died when I tried to call emergency services. I knew there was a gas station near the highway a few miles ahead, and once that became my target, nothing else existed. I kept both hands locked on the wheel and drove faster than I ever had on that road. The SUV stayed close enough that I couldn't see its front grille anymore. Then, just before the station came into view, the road narrowed around some construction barriers. The SUV suddenly pulled into the other lane and came up beside me. There were 2 men inside. The driver was the fake officer. The passenger wore a dark uniform too, but he wasn't looking at the road. He was looking straight at me. His face kept flashing red, then blue, then red again, and after a second he smiled. Then he raised a pair of handcuffs against the window. I hit the gas so hard my engine screamed. The station lights appeared ahead like something unreal. I shot into the parking lot, stopped right in front of the entrance, and laid on the horn. The clerk came running out. 2 men at the pumps turned toward me. I jumped out of the car and yelled, "Call 911, he's not real." By the time anyone looked back toward the road, the SUV was already turning away. The actual police got there fast. Marked units, body cameras, real uniforms. One deputy took my statement while another checked the security cameras. A third asked if the fake officer had touched my car. I said he had grabbed the handle. He told me to show him where. I walked him over, and he shined his flashlight beneath the handle seam. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. There was a zip tie looped through a small metal ring, tucked just far enough out of sight that I wouldn't have noticed while driving. The deputy cut it loose and held it up between 2 fingers. He spoke quietly. Sometimes, he said, people attach something to a car so the driver notices it only after getting home. You park, you get out. You see something strange hanging from the door, and for a few seconds, you stop paying attention to everything else. He didn't explain further. He didn't have to. A few minutes later, another officer came over and asked whether I had seen the front plate on the SUV. I said no. He told me there had been another report less than a week earlier in the next county over. A woman driving alone late at night had been stopped by a black SUV with patrol lights. She was told to step out. She refused. The vehicle followed her until she reached a lit shopping area, then disappeared. Her description matched mine exactly. 2 men, fake uniforms, one of them smiling. They had not found them. I barely slept after that. For days, every pair of headlights behind me made my chest tighten. I bought a dash cam, a charger for my phone, and a habit of checking mirrors so often it became automatic. But the thing that stayed with me the longest wasn't the chase. It was a detail from the gas station footage the police showed me later. The fake officer had walked up to my window with his flashlight in his left hand. At first, that meant nothing. Then the deputy paused the footage and zoomed in. The man's right hand was lowered beside the door, mostly hidden from my angle. He wasn't empty-handed after all. He was holding something folded, black and narrow. It took me a second to understand what I was looking at. A blindfold. The case never became public. There was a short warning from the sheriff's office about verifying unmarked traffic stops and calling 911 if anything felt off. But there were no arrests, no names, nothing that made it feel finished. The story faded for everyone except the people who had seen those lights in their mirrors. Almost a year later, my younger sister called me just before midnight. She was pulled over on the shoulder near the next town, shaking so badly I could hear it in her breathing. A dark SUV with a windshield light bar had tried to stop her on a county road. She remembered what happened to me, kept driving, and called 911. The dispatcher told her there was no unit behind her. She made it to a truck stop. The SUV vanished before deputies arrived. When I got there, she was standing beneath the floodlights by the entrance, arms wrapped around herself, staring out at the highway like it might come back. I kept telling myself it probably wasn't the same man, that after all that time, it had to be someone else. Then she looked at me and said the one thing I still think about every time patrol lights appear behind me on an empty road. He smiled at me, she said, like he knew I was going to stop eventually. We had just left a warehouse party on the industrial edge of the city, the kind thrown in a place that looked abandoned from the outside, but somehow had 300 people inside and a line of cars wrapped around the block. It was late, maybe close to 2 in the morning, and the roads out there were mostly empty loading routes, dead-end side streets, and fenced lots with security lights that made everything look colder than it was. I was driving. Marcus was in the passenger seat, half awake and still laughing about something that had happened inside. Then the red and blue lights flashed in my mirror and his whole face changed. "Don't stop here," he said. I asked why. He was already turned in his seat, staring through the back window. "I don't know. Just don't stop here. Up ahead." The road curved around a row of dark storage buildings. On the right was an empty lot. On the left was a chain-link fence and a drainage ditch. There were no houses, no businesses open, no traffic. It was the worst possible place to be alone with a police car. But at the same time, what else was I supposed to do? The cruiser gave a short burst of siren. I slowed down and put on my signal to show I was complying, but I kept rolling, looking for someplace brighter. The car behind us didn't like that. Its siren cut off and the loudspeaker came on. "Pull over immediately." The voice sounded wrong, too flat, too aggressive, like someone trying to sound official instead of someone who actually was. Marcus heard it too. He looked at me and said very quietly, "Call 911 now." I grabbed my phone from the console and handed it to him because my hands were tight on the wheel. He put the call on speaker. It rang once, twice, then connected. He gave our location and said we were being stopped by what might be a fake police car. The dispatcher asked for the unit number. I looked in the mirror. I can't see one. The dispatcher asked for the make and model. I said it looked like an older Ford sedan, black and white, but something about the paint looked off, like it had been done privately. The light bar was mounted, but crooked. The push bumper looked cheap. Nothing was obviously fake at a glance, but nothing looked fully right either. The dispatcher asked if we could see the department name. Marcus leaned back to look. "No," he said. "There's nothing on the doors." There was a pause. Then the dispatcher said, "We do not have a marked unit in your area attempting a traffic stop." The silence in the car after that felt unreal. "Continue driving to a populated, well-lit area," she said. "Do not stop. Deputies are responding." The loudspeaker behind us came on again, louder this time. "Driver, pull over now, or force will be used." Marcus just stared ahead. "He can hear us calling." I asked what he meant. He pointed to the back of the car. There was a short antenna mounted on the trunk, but next to it was something else I hadn't noticed before. A small speaker box fixed inside the front grille, the kind security vehicles sometimes use. Whoever was behind us had gone to a lot of trouble to make that car look convincing. Not perfect, just convincing enough for one bad decision on a dark road. The fake cruiser surged closer. There were 2 people inside. I could see them more clearly now whenever we passed under a streetlight. The driver was broad-shouldered, wearing something dark with a reflective patch. The passenger leaned forward and held up what looked like a badge wallet against the windshield, as if that was supposed to reassure us. Instead, it made Marcus swear under his breath, because even from 20 feet away, the badge was upside down. I took the next turn too fast and nearly clipped the curb. We ended up on an even emptier street, lined with shuttered auto shops and dumpsters. The dispatcher kept talking, telling us deputies were 3 minutes out, then 2. The fake cruiser accelerated and pulled alongside us on the driver's side. The man behind the wheel looked over. He was wearing a uniform shirt. But no body camera, no nameplate, no shoulder patches, just a dark shirt with a metal badge pinned to it. His passenger rolled down his window and shouted, "Stop the vehicle!" He wasn't wearing any uniform at all, just a black jacket. Marcus raised his phone and pointed the camera at them. The passenger saw that and immediately ducked back. The driver fell behind us again. For a second, I thought maybe that was enough. Maybe being recorded had made them back off. Then the cruiser rammed us. Not hard enough to spin us. Just a violent hit to the rear corner, deliberate and controlled. My car fishtailed, tires screaming, and Marcus braced a hand against the dash. I managed to straighten out, but now I was shaking so hard I could barely feel the steering wheel. "Keep going," he said. Keep going. We could see the glow of a larger road ahead, maybe half a mile away. There would be a 24-hour pharmacy there, a diner, maybe a gas station. We only had to make it there. Then my car started pulling. At first, I thought the impact had damaged the axle. The steering felt wrong, heavy on one side. I was fighting it more with every second. Marcus twisted around and looked back through the rear glass. He said, "No, no, no, no." I asked what happened. "There's something attached." I thought he meant they had hit us again, but then I heard it too. A metallic scraping behind us, a chain or hook dragging on the road. The fake cruiser had gotten close enough during the ram to latch something onto my rear tow point. I still don't fully understand how they managed it while moving, and I don't want to, but they had. They were trying to slow us down before we reached the main road, maybe drag us sideways, maybe just panic us into stopping. Whatever the plan was, it stopped being an impersonation right there. This wasn't somebody playing cop. This was an abduction attempt with lights on top. Marcus told the dispatcher exactly what was happening. Her voice changed immediately. She started giving us direct instructions. Do not brake suddenly. Maintain course. Units arriving. Keep line open. I could hear other voices in the background now. More radios, more urgency. The road ahead opened into a 4-way intersection, and the glow of the pharmacy sign was visible beyond it. One more block. Then the fake cruiser tried to pull past us again, probably to box us in before we reached the traffic light. I saw it inching up on my left, close enough that our mirrors almost touched. The driver looked furious now, his face red under the flash of his own lights. Gone was any attempt to act official. He was just a man in a costume who had run out of patience. That was when real sirens finally cut through the night. Not behind us. Ahead. 2 actual patrol SUVs came through the intersection from opposite directions, lights flooding the whole street. The fake cruiser dropped back so suddenly the chain snapped loose from my car and sparked across the pavement. I heard Marcus shout something, but I was too locked in to process it. I just aimed for the pharmacy parking lot and got the car stopped near the entrance. By the time I looked up again, the fake cruiser was turning hard down a side street with 1 real unit in pursuit. The second deputy ran to our car with his weapon drawn, yelling for us to keep our hands visible. Once he realized what we were, his whole posture changed. He asked if we were hurt, if anyone had gotten out, if we had seen faces clearly. Marcus kept saying, "They hit us. They chained us. They chained us." The deputies found the hook still hanging from the rear frame. It was attached to a length of heavy tow chain with part of a magnetic bracket on the end. Something homemade, ugly, and brutally practical. One deputy took photos while another asked me if I knew anyone who might target me specifically. I said no, absolutely no one. That turned out not to matter. 2 days later, they found the fake cruiser abandoned behind a demolished motel 40 miles away. It had been repainted twice. Under the black and white layer, it was dark green. The VIN had been stripped from the dash. Inside were 2 fake badges, a pair of handcuffs, zip ties, gloves, and a police scanner tuned to local dispatch. In the trunk, they found a roll of duct tape, a blanket, and a second set of magnetic door decals with another department's name on them. No arrests were made. The worst part came after, when the detectives asked us to come in and look at a list of attempted stops from the last 6 months. Most ended the same way ours did. Driver gets suspicious, keeps going. Fake unit peels off, but not all of them. One report from a neighboring county described a college student who stopped on a frontage road at night because the car behind her looked official enough. The fake officer told her to get out and stand at the rear of the vehicle. She refused and locked the doors. He pounded on the glass, then left when another car approached. Another report was shorter. Driver stopped. Phone later recovered in ditch. Vehicle found abandoned. No confirmed connection, the detective said. Not enough evidence. Still open. That phrase has stayed with me more than anything else. Still open. Like whatever was behind those lights didn't end on our road. Like it just moved, changed decals, changed counties, and kept looking for someone tired enough or scared enough to obey. Marcus never jokes when we drive at night anymore. I don't either. If lights appear behind me on a dark road, I slow down, put on my hazard lights, call 911, and keep moving until I can see people. I don't care who gets offended. I don't care how it looks. Because for a few minutes that night, we watched something terrifying happen in real time. We watched men use the shape of authority the same way other people use a mask. And the reason it worked, almost worked, is the part that's hardest to live with. Everything they needed was already built into us. The lights, the command, the instinct to pull over and trust the uniform. And somewhere out there, unless they've finally been caught, two men know that if they keep trying long enough, eventually somebody will stop. I didn't realize he was fake until he asked me to unlock my apartment building. Up to that point, everything about him had worked exactly the way it was supposed to. The uniform, the clipped tone, the flashlight, the badge hanging from his chest where my eyes could find it before my brain had time to question anything. Even the timing made sense. It was just after 11 on a Thursday night, and I was coming back from taking trash out when I saw him standing in the lobby outside the glass entry door. He motioned for me to come over. I lived in a 6-story apartment building with one of those front entrances that always looked more secure than it actually was. Key fob access, camera over the mailboxes, management signs about not letting strangers in. Half the time, the outer lock didn't even catch unless you pulled hard on the door. But seeing a police officer there at that hour cut through all of that. My first thought was that something had happened in the building. When I stepped into the lobby, he asked, "You live here?" I said yes. "Good," he replied. "I need you to let me into the stairwell access on the 4th floor. Not into the building, not to a unit. To the stairwell access on the 4th floor." The request was strange enough that I paused. He noticed immediately and lifted a hand toward his badge. "Police business," he said. "We had a call from a resident. Possible domestic situation. Building manager isn't answering." If he had just said there was an emergency and told me to open the main door, I probably would have done it. But the way he said it, specific, rehearsed, almost too neat, made something in me hold back. I asked whether other officers were coming. He gave me a look that was mild on the surface and irritated underneath. "Ma'am, I don't need a committee, I need access." That should have settled it. It almost did. But while he was talking, I glanced outside and saw no patrol car at the curb. No lights, no second officer, nothing. He followed my eyes and answered before I asked. "Units around back." I nodded, but the unease stayed there. I told him I'd call the super. "Already tried that," he said quickly. No answer, elevator or stairs. There was something wrong with how fast he wanted me moving. Real urgency has its own rhythm. It doesn't sound like impatience. This sounded like he needed me to stop thinking. I said I'd grab my phone first because I had left it upstairs. That changed his expression for a fraction of a second. Not anger exactly, more like calculation. Then it was gone. "Fine," he said. "Be quick." I took the elevator to the 3rd floor, not the 5th where my apartment was, and stepped out as quietly as I could. My heart was beating hard enough that I could feel it in my throat. I went into the stairwell, moved up 1 level on foot, and used the little window in the fire door to look down toward the lobby. He was no longer standing by the entrance. He was staring directly at the elevator. I froze. From where I stood, I could see only part of him through the narrow glass panes, but I could see enough. One hand on his belt, the other holding the flashlight low, not waiting casually, not checking his radio. just standing still, eyes fixed on the elevator doors, like he had expected me to come right back down. Then he spoke into his shoulder mic, only there was no mic there. He lifted 2 fingers to an empty patch of fabric near his collar and turned his head slightly, like someone pretending from memory. Every doubt I had locked into certainty all at once. I backed away from the door and nearly stumbled on the stairs. Then I pulled out my phone and called 911 with shaking hands. I gave them the building address, said there was a man in a police uniform inside the lobby, and told them I didn't think he was real. The dispatcher asked if I could confirm his department. I said I couldn't. She asked if there was a marked unit outside. I looked through the stairwell window toward the street. There was a dark sedan parked half a block down, but no cruiser. No, I said. There was a pause, the kind that feels longer than it is. Then she said, "We do not have any officer dispatched to your building." I remember gripping the railing so hard my hand cramped. The dispatcher told me to stay where I was and keep quiet. Units were on the way. She asked whether the man knew where I lived. I said no. At least, I didn't think so. Then I heard the lobby buzzer sound once through the building intercom. Then again, longer. He was ringing random apartments. A few seconds later, someone buzzed him in. The dispatcher must have heard the change in my breathing because she asked what happened. I told her someone had just opened the inner door remotely. She told me officers were 2 minutes out and to stay on the line. I moved upward 1 flight at a time, listening. At first I heard nothing. Then I heard the stairwell door below open with a metallic thud. He had gotten in. I stopped moving. His footsteps started climbing. They were unhurried, measured. He wasn't searching wildly. He was coming up floor by floor with the calm pace of someone who believed he still had time. I pressed myself against the wall by the 5th floor landing and looked through the narrow gap beside the fire door. A beam of light slid up the stairs below. Then his voice came, quiet and controlled. "Ma'am?" He made it sound almost polite. No answer from me. "I just need to ask you a few questions." The dispatcher whispered in my ear, asking if I could still see him. I told her yes, barely. She told me officers were pulling onto the block now. The footsteps continued. 4th floor. Then the stairwell door beneath me opened. He stepped onto the landing wearing a dark blue uniform shirt and a badge clipped to his chest. But now that I was looking without panic, the costume was falling apart. The pants didn't match the shirt. The badge sat too low. The nameplate was blank. There was a holster on his hip, but no visible firearm, just a heavy black flashlight and something else hooked near the back of his belt. He turned his head slowly, listening. Then he looked up toward where I was hidden and smiled. It was the worst moment of the whole night, not because he saw me, but because the smile said he had known approximately where I was the entire time. The questions, the waiting, the fake patience. It had all been for one thing, to get me alone and moving where he wanted. He started up the next flight. I ran, not downstairs, up. Our building had roof access for maintenance, and management was supposed to keep it locked, but the latch had been broken for months. I sprinted to the 6th floor, shoved through the metal door, and slammed it behind me. There was no lock on my side, only a rusted bar handle. I wedged my shoulder against it while the dispatcher kept telling me officers were entering the building now. 3 seconds later, he hit the other side of the door. Once, then again, harder. The whole frame shook. I stumbled back onto the roof. Cold air hit me. The city noise sounded far away and unreal. I remember the gravel under my shoes and the low hum of traffic below, and thinking, with total clarity, that if he came through that door before the police got there, no one in the building would hear me. Then I heard sirens. Real ones. Close. The pounding stopped. For half a second there was silence, then footsteps moving away fast down the stairs. The responding officers caught him in the alley behind the building, trying to pull a reflective police vest off over his head. He had parked the dark sedan around the corner with magnetic decals on the doors and a cheap dashboard light plugged into the cigarette port. In the trunk, they found a second uniform shirt, gloves, zip ties, a pry tool, and a clipboard with sheets of paper that looked official until you actually read them. They also found a list. My building number was written on it. So were 4 others within a few blocks. The detective who took my statement didn't tell me much, but he told me enough. The man was not a police officer, never had been, and had a record for burglary, fraud, and impersonation. They were still trying to determine what exactly he intended to do if he had gotten upstairs with me or if someone had opened a specific apartment for him. That was the part they kept using careful language around, which only made it worse. A week later, one of my neighbors on the second floor knocked on my door and asked if I had been the one who called the police that night. I said yes. She looked embarrassed and told me she thought she might have been the one who led him past the inner door. She had heard the buzzer while washing dishes, looked at the intercom camera, and saw a man in uniform. She assumed he belonged there. Then she said something that has never left me. He looked more real on the screen than he would have in person. That was exactly it. He didn't need to be perfect. He just needed enough distance, enough urgency, enough authority borrowed from the uniform to get someone to fill in the rest themselves. I still live somewhere else now. Different building, better locks, different neighborhood. But every time someone buzzes unexpectedly after dark, I don't go near the door until I know exactly who they are. And I never, ever trust a uniform at first glance anymore, because the thing that still wakes me up isn't the sound of him hitting the roof door. It's the memory of him standing in that stairwell, looking up through dim yellow light, already knowing fear had done half his work for him.